In this video, you'll discover how vitamin D can help boost your immune system and also protect you from infections. In times when infections are rapidly spreading, a lot of people have a huge sense of fear simply because they feel that, first of all, it's just kind of random chance whether they get it in the first place, and then there's not much they can do about it. But the truth is, there is things that you can do about it, and there are ways to take action to help protect yourself and boost your immune system, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. How to use vitamin D in order to boost your immune system and some of the research that shows its antiviral impact it has on the body. So stick around to the end, but before we get started, I'm Dr. Zyrowski, and welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it's a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join our notification community, and I'm going to help you excel your health and your life. Let's go ahead and talk about this vitamin D and the importance of it. I want to run across a couple quick facts here, because the thing is about vitamin D is a lot of people tend to think when we talk about topics like this, well, it's not me, I'm not the one with the issue here, but the truth is that in the United States alone, 42% of the population is estimated to actually have a vitamin D deficiency. Now, with that said, I could say that that's accurate. According to a lot of the patients that I test, I find about those numbers right there. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been tested for vitamin D? Put in the comment section below. Have you been tested? What were the results? Let me know. Now, 42% of the population, it's estimated that 82% of the Black population has a vitamin D deficiency. Also, something I come across all the time, and 70% of the Hispanic population. And another thing that can actually cause you to have a greater risk for vitamin D deficiency is obesity and being overweight. So if you fall into one of these categories right here, we want to make sure that we're taking this seriously. Now, the next thing I want to mention here is that there's going to be two ways that you get vitamin D. One is going to be endogenous, and that basically is through the sun hitting your skin and then this reaction taking place in your body. And as a result, it boosts up your vitamin D in your body. And then there's exogenous. Now, exogenous is going to be through food, through supplementation, that way. So those are the two ways you're going to get vitamin D. Let's go ahead and talk about is immune and viral protection abilities, because this is very important, especially at a time like this where we're fighting this nasty viral infection that is hitting a lot of people really strong and having a big negative impact. So you could imagine if vitamin D is beneficial and 42% of the people have vitamin D deficiencies in the United States, we could have a problem here. And so every cell in the body has a vitamin D receptor on it. So therefore, it's a very, very important vitamin for your overall health. Now, what the research shows is that depletion actually dysregulates the immune function. So your immune system is not able to function at optimal levels, according to the research, when you have that vitamin D deficiency. Now, when we look at vitamin D, one of the things that proper levels do is they activate AMPKs. Now, these AMPKs, specifically the defensin and the catalycidin, these particularly act as a natural antibiotic in the body. Now, what they do is they act as an antiviral, an antibacterial, and an antifungal. And so when you take vitamin D and you have proper levels and your immune system is able to properly react to an invading pathogen, essentially you're going to release these and they're going to act as a natural antibiotic. They're going to help kill these things off. And so it's very important to understand that this is one of the ways that the vitamin D is going to help boost up our immune system and protect us from infection. Now, the other thing that it does is it helps modulates the inflammatory response. The way that it does this is it suppresses the genes that are going to basically push that inflammatory reaction in the body. Now, that inflammatory reaction is important to modulate because when we look at viral infections and their impact on pneumonia and having acute respiratory distress syndrome, all these issues are just due to a storm of inflammation hitting the lungs and hitting different areas of the body. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have proper vitamin D levels within our body so it can help modulate that inflammatory reaction so that we don't get some devastating impact from all the inflammation hitting us when we get sick. Now, there was a study in Norway, and what they did, there were some doctors out there, is they took a whole bunch of individuals and looked at their vitamin D levels and how it correlated to them getting sick with the influenza. What they found is that those who had decreased vitamin D levels were more likely to get the influenza and pneumonia. So overall, when they took the final conclusion of the research, they found that, well, if your vitamin D is low, you're going to have a greater risk of getting these two different infections. And of course, those can have a devastating impact on the body. Now, there's study after study after study out there basically showing that the vitamin D is important as an antiviral. It also is important for helping your immune system, and it's also very important for your lungs. It's important for decreasing inflammation. It has so many benefits, okay? So we have to make sure that we have adequate vitamin D in our body. And so, as I mentioned, there's a lot of studies out there. I'm just hitting on a few of them because I just want to drive the point home that it's pretty important, especially at this time. Now, a couple quick facts about vitamin D, so that we make sure that you're getting vitamin D properly and you're benefiting at the highest level. Now, vitamin D3 is, according to the research, able to work 2 times faster in the body. So if you just go to the store and you get like a regular vitamin D, it is not going to work as fast. If you get a D3, that's the active form, that'll work much faster in your body. It's more absorbable, more bioavailable. Now, the other thing is that when you actually combine the D3 with K2, it increases the absorption ability, which is important because vitamin K2, if you have a deficiency with K2, which a lot of people do, it can actually fight for some of the same receptors and you aren't able to absorb the D3 as well. So taking vitamin D3 and K2 together. Now, sourcing is important too because we want to make sure that we're getting a good quality, okay? A lot of the vitamin D in the store, it is very cheap, and because it's very cheap, it's coming from like soybeans. Now, I'm not a big fan of actually getting vitamin D from soy, and I'm always a big fan of getting a higher quality source here, okay? So I understand that, some vitamin D is better than no vitamin D. However, I would prefer to stay away from the low quality sources of it. Olive oil is a great source. Even fermented soy is a much, much better source that I'm a fan of, but we want to make sure that we stay away from the low quality stuff. Now, of course, we can get it from food too, which we'll talk about in just 1 minute here. I want to talk about the levels that you should be at, okay? So if you get your vitamin D tested, like I mentioned, put in the comment section. I'd love to know where you fall on the vitamin D level. If you get tested, what we want to do is be above 30, okay? So, anything that's below 30 is essentially going to fall in that deficiency state. If you're like really low, down like 20, 15, your body is suffering from this. So we want to make sure that we get these levels up. So 30 and above, optimally, I like to see people 50 and above. And when we talk about replenishing vitamin D or even just getting adequate amount of vitamin D on a daily basis, there's a lot of different numbers out there according to the research. It's kind of all over the place. A lot of research pointed to anywhere between 1,000 and 4,000 IUs a day. Of course, this is a very complicated number to use because there's so many variables, like whether or not you have a deficiency, whether or not you're a child, or whether or not you're an adult. And so here's the thing, is that there's been research out there where they're showing that it's beneficial to take as much as 50,000 IUs a day for people who are extremely depleted. So what we need to know about this is just we need to take vitamin D on a regular. I'm a big fan of taking anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000, typically around 3,000 IUs for a female and around 5,000 IUs for a male. Now, once again, if you have a severe depletion, you can take higher levels for a short period of time, take a very strong therapeutic dose in order to get you to where you need to be. This is very common when you go to the doctor's office and they find out you have a vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D toxicity is a thing, however, it is very rare. A lot of people will be afraid to even go and buy a vitamin D and take it because they heard all these horror stories about a toxicity problem. It's a very rare problem and you have to be taking a just excessive amount of vitamin D to get there. So take that into consideration. Now let's talk about some of the food sources, okay? Before we jump into the food sources, I do want to mention that if you want to learn more about antivirals, I did a whole video on a powerful antiviral herb. You can check that out right here because it's going to really just help give you more natural ways to boost your body's natural defense system and of course fight off some viruses. So food sources, cod liver oil is great, okay? So you're gonna get about 1,360 IUs from 1 tablespoon of cod liver oil, which is a lot. I mean, that's a lot of vitamin D from a food source. And that's one of the things that you'll understand here is that getting vitamin D from a food source is a little bit difficult, okay? So cod liver oil is a great source of it. Salmon, about 3 ounces, will give you 447 IUs. Tuna, 3 ounces, will give you about 154 IUs. Beef liver, 42. eating one, and that's 3 ounces of beef liver, one egg yolk, okay, the vitamin D is actually in the yolk, 41 IUs, and then one sardine is going to be 23 IUs. One of the troubles here is that you have to consume a lot of fish on a daily basis to actually get sufficient amount of vitamin D. So some people will be like, well, I'm going to get it from my food. Well, you know, there is some vitamin D fortified food out there. However, like if you're just getting it from like the food sources like fish, it is very difficult to get enough of it. In fact, much of the fish is very toxic out there. So that's kind of a whole nother thing that I don't want to get into right now, but it's something that we have to be careful with because it's difficult to get it from your food source alone. Now, what you can do, of course, and this is the ideal way to get vitamin D, is maybe get a little bit from fish, but also go in and get lots of it from sunlight. Okay, so spending about 30 to 45 minutes a day out in the sunlight with the sun hitting your skin and hitting most areas of your body is going to be very, very profound for having a positive impact on boosting your vitamin D levels. And then from there, if we want to continue to boost vitamin D, using vitamin D supplementation is obviously a huge way to go here, okay, because we can easily take one little capsule that has, 3,000 to 5,000 IUs in it and boost our vitamin D that way. As long as we're getting it from a good source and is working well, it's going to have a profound impact on boosting our health, working as an antiviral, and also boosting our immune system. Now, by no means is vitamin D the only thing out there that is playing a role in boosting our immune system. Our whole lifestyle is. However, vitamin D is just another piece to the puzzle that's going to offer you better health. So be sure to make sure that you're getting adequate amounts of vitamin D on a daily basis. And then also check out this video over here where I talk about the symptoms of a vitamin D deficiency. Whether it's the nervous system, tissue, or any other cells in the body, they all have vitamin D receptors, so you can see how incredibly important vitamin D is for your overall health.